Need a haircut. Anyway, do that later. It being summer, I'm doing a lot of gardening. And a thing that's very handy in the garden is somewhere to sit. Not just to admire your garden, but somewhere, you do a bit of gardening, then you sit and a wee think about it, and then you want to carry on. So if you're sitting admiring the garden, you want to sit in a nice relaxing seat. But if you're just having a pause to think about gardening, you want a perching bench. And it's slightly higher than a normal seat. So how high do you make a seat? Well, that's entirely up to you, obviously. There are guidelines if you're making a bench or a seat for the general public. There's guidelines on how high to make it, and how deep to make it, and all that kinds of things. But if you're making one for your own use, purely make it to your own specifications. So let's go and specify a seat. This is Nelson. So called because it was made by my great-great-granduncle after he came back from the Battle of Trafalgar. That is not relevant to what I'm doing. That's just me taking the brag that I've got this old seat, which my wife won't let me put in the house, so therefore it's in my workshop. This is a fine height for a seat if you're sitting having a relax. It's too low for a perching bench. So I'll get something to sit on top of, and then we can maybe work at certain height for a perching bench. I'll use some bits of the movable workbench. And some scraps of wood that I have lined up in place. How's that? That's good. I like this for the height of the perching bench. All I need to do is measure it. That comes out to 54 centimetres. These are 4x2s. It's amazing how long we've been using the metric system, and we still call these 4x2s. Modern 4x2s are slightly under 4 inches and slightly under 2 inches. The width again is your own choosing. Since I'm wanting a bench that two of us can sit on comfortably, that's about 50 centimetres, and a little bit extra so that when we're both sitting on the bench we can put a cup of coffee in between us. So you call that 65 and add another 50, makes us 115. Right, do I have enough wood? This bit of wood is 119 long. It's got angles at both ends. I just need to cut it square and it'll be alright. Super! You got the three things you need when you're doing woodwork. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. Ear protection, eye protection, and a dust mask. You're feeling about set on the depth of your saw, leave the battery off. Less likely to have your fingers go missing. There we go. Editing John here. I tried to make the cutting up of all my bits of wood look interesting, but quite frankly you can't really edit the cutting up of bits of wood to make it look interesting. So all I will say is that when you're working with a big power tool, which can in a moment alter your life, every time you use it, make sure that you know where your fingers are. Take a moment to consider. If you don't feel slightly nervous when working with a big power tool of this ilk, you're probably not in the right frame of mind for using a big power tool. Anyway, let's cut to me making this cutting bench into a workbench and joining the cut pieces together. Saggy board from the outside for a wee while. Got a bit green, but it doesn't matter. Still solid enough. Right, 6 legs. And 3 seat pieces. Right, first things first. I would recommend decking screws because these are going to be outdoors. You want them to last as long as possible. At least here we set inside. There like that. And that like that. All lined up nicely. Take a bit of time to get your lining up right, because a mistake now is a right pain to put right like that. We've got to set the middle bit of wood back slightly from the edge here and just under slightly on the seat side. There we go. Oh, there isn't any dust, so we can do without mask. When you put your first screw in, make sure everything is still level and lined up. So might put a bit of torque on the whole thing. And like I said before, a mistake now is much more difficult to put right. This is me drilling pilot holes and screwing it all together. I'm sure you've worked out how that goes, so we'll just cut straight to the finished article now. There we go, a seat. There we go, a perching bench. I'll maybe make some more garden seating in the future, but I hope you've enjoyed this look at my making this wee bench, and if you have, a like, a comment and or a subscribe would be awfully nice. I'll be back next week with something more, and in the meantime, have fun till then.